Hello and welcome to today's webinar hosted by Ciphr, Reaping the Benefits, Why Switching to Payrolling Benefits in Kind Could Be Right for You. I'm Catherine and I'm Ciphr's Head of Content. I'm joined by my colleague Amanda, who's Payroll Sales Manager at Ciphr. Welcome Amanda, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you, Catherine. I'm Amanda Barnden. I'm the Payroll Sales Manager for Ciphr, and really pleased to welcome you all today to the session.
Oh, lovely. Thanks so much everyone for joining us today. I'm just going to quickly run through our agenda before I hand over to Amanda. So today we're going to look at the growing complexity of the payroll and benefits landscape, why organisations have been reluctant to move away from using P11Ds, the limitations of using P11Ds to calculate tax, the advantages for employees of payroll benefits, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how Ciphr is using that with our suite of benefits, the challenges of moving to payrolling benefits in kind and how to overcome them, and also look at how Ciphr's HR and payroll solutions can support your move to payroll benefits in kind. Amanda will also be taking your questions at the end of the broadcast, so if you have any questions, send them in using the control panel on your screen. Remember, if you're watching live, this is being recorded and the recording will be emailed to you automatically. There's no further action you need to take to get that. Okay, with that, I'm going to hand over to Amanda. She's just going to introduce us to Ciphr's solution.
Thank you. So a little bit about Ciphr before we begin. Ciphr have been a supplier of people solutions for more than 35 years now. From our origins as an HR solutions provider, our services and products now include recruitment, payroll and learning management solutions. With 700 customers across the UK, we support the entire employee life cycle, as you can see our lovely wheel there, from recruitment and attraction right through to payroll and offboarding.
Thanks, Amanda, and I'm just going to jump back on order because we've got a little bit of a poll to get you going. Are you planning to implement payrolling of benefits in kind? Perhaps not, but you're interested to know what's involved. You already payroll benefits, and maybe you're joining us today to learn a little bit more about that, or perhaps you're planning to implement it in April 2023. So Amanda, you talk to a range of Ciphr customers and also people who are considering Ciphr solutions. Is this something that people are talking to you about more and more?
Yeah, they are, and and there's we'll explore that today, of course, but there are always questions about not only the implications for the software and the services that you're using for HR and payroll, but also how you manage that change. It's always quite a big transition from P11Ds to the payrolling benefits in kind, and it's really important that employees understand what's going to happen to their pay. So I'm really hoping that we can demystify some of that today as well.
Lovely, thanks so much. I'm just going to share the results. So around 2/3 of you aren't planning to implement payrolling benefits in kind, but you're kind of keen to find out what's involved, which is great. Great to have you with us. 15% of you already payrolling benefits, and a further 1/5 are planning to implement it in April. So that's where we are at the moment. I'm going to hand back to Amanda now.
Great, thank you. No, it's really interesting to learn. Thank you, everyone who voted there. Great stuff. Let's take a look at the different types of rewards and benefits that we can manage as employers, first of all. So I've been in the payroll industry for over 30 years now. I know I don't look it. But the rewards and benefits area is certainly one of the areas that I've seen the role of the payroll manager significantly change over the years. Obviously, having a payroll background, I'm always going to have a little bit of a payroll slant on this. Obviously, we're going to have colleagues joining us today from the HR world. So welcome to everyone from HR as well. It's now 10 years since the introduction of auto-enrolment for pensions. There's been a very changing landscape with salary sacrifice elements of pay and the wider flexible benefit options that are available. The key, of course, is retention of a happy workforce who feel valued, and of course, every organisation's best asset is their people. The development of the payroll manager's role to have a wider understanding of compensation and benefits and the tax implications for those adds to that payroll manager's skill set and makes them an essential part of the HR and the finance team. Reward still seems to sit between HR and finance, but certainly a bridge between the two teams, and also with an eye on compliance always for your company. Some benefits have got no tax implications at all. At Ciphr, we work with partners like Amber and Benefex, who offer things like shopping discounts and reduced price cinema tickets, as an example. Financial well-being is certainly a focus in the current economic situation. So employers can certainly offer different ways to help support their workforce. You can have a look at Ciphr's partner pages to see more help and advice about these sorts of suppliers. Health benefits like free eye tests and flu vaccines have also played a part in the employee wellbeing policies for most organisations, and these have no impact on payroll or taxable benefits. Salary sacrifice schemes, or catchily named by HMRC, optional pay remuneration arrangements, OPRA, offer non-cash benefits and can include cycle to work schemes, car leasing and pensions. Obviously childcare vouchers are now no longer available, but you may be continuing to operate those for existing recipients. Salary sacrifice benefits are used to reduce taxable and national insuranceable pay by the cash value of the benefit that's given up, creating a saving for both the employer and the employee. A PSA will allow employers to meet the tax and NICs payable on certain benefits. Or on expenses given to their employees. It's a practical way to reduce the admin that might otherwise be involved. So these can be applied to minor or one-off expenses or benefits. The HMRC do helpfully provide quite a long list. It's a very long list if you have a look on the .gov website for definitions and examples of what counts as a minor, irregular or impractical expense or benefit. So that could include things like incentive awards, a present to an employee in hospital, staff entertainment. This is actually taken straight from HMRC. For example, a ticket to Wimbledon. Get that one in. Use of a company van, gift vouchers and small gifts. Our focus today, though, is on payrolling benefits in kind. HMRC are keen for employers to transition to this method of taxation. So let's explore what you're going to need to know as an employer. So is this the end of P11D reporting? Well, possibly, maybe not, nearly. It was introduced in April 2016, so that's some time now, and we're still talking about this transition. It's not mandatory. Neither is it incentivized, but we can see that at some point the HMRC will attempt to end P11D reporting altogether. This might take some time. The payrolling process still isn't a complete process for all benefits. As you can see, there's a couple of points on that slide there for things that cannot be payrolled. So why do HMRC want you to payroll benefits? Partly this is due to the nature of taxing benefits which have already been received by the employee. So that means that the tax due on those benefits is always in arrears. It's not a great situation. Because it means that we're always doing retrospective adjustments to tax codes, or worse, employees are receiving big demands from HMRC for uncollected tax. I was on the receiving end of that myself in my last employer, where I had a company car for nearly a whole year, and then got a really tasty bill for tax and a reduction on my tax code for the following year. It wasn't nice. The adjustments made on tax codes in the current year is always a predicted value for how much taxable benefit the HMRC think you're going to get this year. Imagine a new starter in May. They've joined your healthcare scheme. You can see that that's almost a whole year of benefit that they're not paying that tax, a little bit like me and my company car. The HMRC don't get to hear about that until the following year, unless they've been really diligent. The employees put it on their self-assessment, but in advance. You can do that. So the HMRC get to hear about it the following July, which means there's back tax due, and they're going to do the change to the tax code as well. You can see it can become quite a confusing situation for the employees. Sorry, my iPad is not scrolling my notes up, which is very annoying. Bear with me. The other reason that the HMRC want you to payroll benefits, I suspect, is to align with the whole Making Tax Digital and real-time information. So it makes sense in 2022 to be taxed on all of your earnings and benefits at the point of receiving them. It's logical, makes sense. So what does payrolling benefits actually mean? Well, it's taxable, non-NIable, so we don't get the NIC savings like we do for salary sacrifice, but it's a no-pay item on the payroll. So all we're doing actually is increasing the taxable pay for employees through the payroll. Sounds easy, right? So how do we set it up, and will it work for you? I've put that little thing about the Office of Tax Simplification at the bottom there. Just incidentally, you know I get geeky about these things if you join my webinars regularly. It seems as though the Office of Tax Simplification actually invented the phrase payrolled. We can't find any reference to it before their report. So I think they are responsible for payrolling to enter our vocabulary in the HR world. Okay, switching to payroll benefits in kind. All right, so we've got a little checklist here for you. So these 4 things are my best advice for when you're starting to think about implementing this as a change. So number 1, if you are responsible for running your payroll in-house, do check that your payroll software can support it. Most should now, to be fair. So it's been around for a few years, so most payroll software is capable of supporting these calculations for you. But do be aware there could be additional license fees, there could be implementation costs, there could be training that you need to consider as well. So if you are looking to put a business case forward for this change, then do consider those. There could be costs. If you outsource your payroll, so point 2, have a chat with your bureau manager or your account manager. Find out if your bureau can support you for this and the changes. I'm going to come on to changes in calculations in a little while as well. So can they help you with the changes that you might need to help you throughout the tax year? Timing is crucial. Timing is everything, as for everything in payroll. So officially you can register at any time before the start of the new tax year. Please don't leave it that late. There's so much planning to do beforehand. One of the things to bear in mind is that HMRC start working on next year's tax codes in around November, so around now. So if you are going to make the this change, try to catch them before that routine starts, so that you don't end up with a whole string of different P9 notices or different tax code changes, which could be confusing for your employees and your colleagues. The screenshot that we've got here, this is the .gov page where you would start that process to actually make the election to choose to move to payrolling benefits in kind. You can only do it for a full tax year. So if you log on through here, you will actually be given a whole list of all of the different benefits that you can choose to be paid. You don't have to do all of them. You might have different types of benefits, and you can just choose the ones that you want to put through your payroll for the coming tax year. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't get any further through there. I'm not an employer, so I couldn't make it go forward, but you could back out. You can go in there and back out if you need to. Oops, sorry, Catherine. Yeah, okay, next slide. So communications with your employees will be vital for the success of this transition. and for any type of change that you're introducing, which is going to affect their pay. So let's face it, there's always going to be employees who don't understand. They're still going to call you, email you, or use your online chat to ask you about it anyway. So be prepared for this. Make sure you've got plenty of information and documentation to share with them. Create FAQs so that they've got easy access to this source of advice. Shameless plug for Ciphr HR at this point. Employee comms and notifications can be managed through our platform, of course. Company policies and documentation can all be really easily published on our platform, together with a landing page. We've got the screenshot there for announcements. So make sure everybody knows if you are going to implement what the change means for them. HMRC, so you must give written notice by the 1st of July, and this can be by payslip, email, or letter. I'd suggest a combination of all of those. Just keep spamming, because employees, again, don't always read everything that you send. So an explanatory letter emailed with a copy on the employee self-service so that the employee could come back to it at any point will be a definite advantage. So the things that you need to tell them. So you must tell them that their tax code will change to take out that adjustment for the benefits in kind if they're already receiving that benefit. So the impact of that should mean that they go back to regular personal allowances for the tax year that this is implemented. You've also got to tell them that you will be putting the adjusted amount through the payroll each pay period, and that they will pay tax on that amount. So that's two really clear pieces of advice that you must give your employees. So the tax code will change and that you will be payrolling that benefit. So there is a common misconception that employees will be double taxed in the first year that you apply payroll benefits in kind. It's not true. Tax codes, as I've mentioned before, are based on a predicted amount of benefits that the HMRC thinks you're going to receive in this tax year. So if you get those applications in early, you do have the chance that the employee will have a normal tax code for the first year. The only reason for any adjustment by HMRC will be is if your reported P11D values are different to the predicted ones. So, but that should only mean that there's a very small change, maybe a little bit of change, unless, of course, you did introduce a brand new benefit in the previous year. As you may know, there is a 50% maximum tax limit that anybody can pay on their earnings. So, for example, if your pay is £1,000, you can't pay more than £500 tax to ensure that you've got enough to live on. So that limit is there. So if the impact of applying payrolling benefits is to bust through that limit, there are two options available to you for management of that excess tax. Option one, just remove the payrolling benefits in kind for that employee and P11D the benefits instead. So you see this P11D thing is still with us. Option two is that you can carry forward the shortfall to the following month. If there's still any underpaid tax by the tax year end, the HMRC will write to the employee to recover that and to collect that shortfall. New employees. So if you have a new employee and you're going to be payrolling their benefits, you must tell them how the benefit will be taxed. This loops quite nicely back to those two really vital pieces of information that we started off on this slide with, that you must tell your employees. So you must tell them that their tax code may be amended to adjust any benefits from a previous employment, and that the new benefit will not be included in their tax code. You're going to take it through the payroll. For leavers, we've kind of got the reverse thing going on. So the likelihood is that their benefit, so if we think of something like a health benefit or a car ownership, the benefit is likely to end on their last day of service, or their last day of employment with you. Some benefits may be deducted in whole months, so do check your company policies for the treatment of benefits in that situation. So the benefit will need to be prorated and the balance adjusted on their last pay, on their final pay. So if you had late notice of the leaver, we know this happens, then you've already done their final pay, but there's a shortfall in the taxable benefit, you must notify HMRC either as taxable pay on the FPS or, you guessed it, on a P11D. You see we're not really moving away from P11Ds when unusual things happen. So for all of this, as I say, this all becomes part of the employee communications, and you can probably get the majority of that information in one communication and make that freely available to all of your employees in kind of an FAQ sort of approach. Company cars, I mentioned cars there. We've actually seen a decline across our customers for sure in the use of company cars. The majority of employers are moving across to car allowances, or they're paying HMRC rates or perhaps enhanced mileage rates for the use of private cars for business journeys. However, there are still employers for whom the provision of a car is essential, and some of our customers do indeed still have large fleets. The P11D process can be time-consuming, cumbersome, especially if the changes are reviewed at tax year end, and maybe some of those changes haven't been tracked or recorded properly. It can be a little bit of an administrative nightmare, a bit of a headache to get those done. So you can see particularly if there's a fleet system that we can extract data from, actually being able to monitor those changes all the way through the year is going to be really useful. There are a lot of fields that you're going to need to hold on your system, on your payroll system or your payroll service for the payrolling of company cars. Tempted to list them here and then completely changed my mind about that, deleted it all off. It would have made a really boring slide, to be honest anyway, but there's quite a lot of information that you need. I could provide that to you if you want to see it. But because of all of that information, the best news is that P46 car will no longer need to be done. That's the quarterly return that you would have to normally make to HMRC for new car users and change to car ownership. So that's a great thing. So that's a big tick. You will need to make sure that you've got a good line of communication with whoever in your business is responsible for the car ownership. Clearly, any changes are best made during the month of the change on your payroll. My iPad is stuck again, sorry. So so in our own software, in Ciphr's payroll software, we create a database of the cars with all the appropriate fields and the tables so that we calculate the benefit value. Then the cars are allocated to the employees with the available from and to dates. This prorates the taxable value between those dates using calendar days of ownership. So that leads us nicely into the next slide, which is all about the calculations themselves. So how do we calculate the taxable pay for the uplift to the payroll? The calculations themselves actually are reasonably logical and easy to understand. This again is helpful when you're for your employee comms when you're discussing this with employees so that they can understand the changes to their pay and the implementation of those values. So essentially, you're taking the reportable value, dividing it by the number of pay periods, and that is the amount to increase the taxable pay for. So say your employee receives £1,200 in medical benefit each year and they're monthly paid. We divide that by 12 and we're entering £100 uplift to the taxable pay through the payroll, with a nice clear payslip description as well, so that the employee can very, very clearly see exactly what that change is on their payslip. Your payroll software or service will be configured as well to make the correct reporting to the HMRC using your FPS submission. So the full payment summary, of course, being the regular reporting that goes off for all of the pay, tax and NI at the on or before each payday. So that calculation follows for other pay periods. Your weeklies, obviously you divide that figure by 52, for 2 weeklies divide by 26 and so on. So what if your employee is paid by irregular pay periods? So these are payments of employment income which have no set pattern. To work out the taxable amount of benefit, it gets a little bit trickier. You take the cash equivalent of the annual benefit value again. So we're starting with the same value, but this time we're using calendar day method to divide by 365 and then multiply by the number of calendar days in the tax year. So for example, if you had one that was payable today, you would calculate from the 6th of November, from the 6th of April to the 2nd of November, for example. So you need to multiply up by the number of days in the pay period, and that's your taxable benefit value. For each subsequent payment, you have to take it from the pay period that you're paying back to that date. So again, maybe it's 2nd or 3rd of November in my example. So this method with calendar days has always been used for P11Ds, so actually there's no change there. If you do need any help on that, please do give me a call or drop me a line. We can do Q&A on that. Those are regular pay periods, for casual or maybe 0 hours workers. It can still be applied to them. They can still benefit from payrolling benefits in kind. You've just got to do this calendar day calculation each time for each time they are paid. Making changes. So in payroll, we live in the real world where there are changes. Sometimes we're not always the first to know that something has changed, and we could be in a situation where there are retrospective changes to make. So we need to make sure that we've got the processes and the mechanisms to deal with these efficiently and effectively so that we get an accurate calculation. Again, this is a good thing to make sure employees know in advance to help any confusion if there are backdated changes to make. So if the value of the benefit changes mid-year, this is the method that must be used to recalculate the value for the taxable pay. Bear with me, I did try to create a formula. I was going to try and show you a calculation sort of formula for how to put this together. It's just too much. The workflow seems to work quite well though. So we're using calendar day calculations again. So to work out a revised taxable amount, you need to do that calculation that we were talking about just now for the part year. So calendar days up to the date of change on the old value, calendar days on the new value up to the 5th of April. So we've got these two figures, add those together, that's your taxable amount for the whole year. Take away the amount on which the benefit has already been paid. That will give you a remainder, and say you've got 5 more monthly pay days to the end of the year, divide it by 5, that's your new taxable amount for the rest of the year. Did you follow that? Was that all right? So it does take a little bit of fiddling about, but I have to say you would still need to do that calculation if you were reporting on P11Ds. So actually there's no change there. If you've made your final FPS, we're at tax year end and you didn't know about that change, then the change can't go through on the payroll, then the value can be carried forward to the first payday of the following tax year, and that includes any negative value. So if there was a reduction, of course that could generate a reduction in tax or a tax refund in that first payment of the new year. Please note that the Class 1A calculations can't be carried forward. So that reportable benefit for the year, the Class 1A still has to be paid on that by 19th of July after the tax year end. Changing the number of paydays, we've got a similar approach to, it's this same formula, this same approach to the calculation. You might need to change the number of you might need to change the number of paydays if somebody moves from weekly to monthly payroll, for example. So to recalculate the amount, do this calculation that we've got here again, but then the remainder, that balance, you need to divide by the number of remaining paydays for the rest of the year. So again, that's going to make sure that we get an accurate value by the end of that tax year for that employee. Tax year end. So what are your obligations for tax year end reporting? Well, you must still report anything on P11D for benefits that aren't payrolled. And we covered that earlier. There are some benefits which cannot yet be payrolled. So, the employer provided living accommodation for someone, for example. The same process will then apply for calculation and reporting to HMRC and the provision of self-assessment copies to the employees. But as covered earlier, also any excess benefits which couldn't be recovered through the payroll will need to be reported on P11D. For example, those employees whose income tax exceeded the 50% limit. All benefits must be consolidated for reporting on P11DB. So your P11DB is the summary for all reportable benefits and the values for your organisation through the year. So that is the figure that you need to calculate as an employer for payment over of your Class 1A calculations. Class 1A is a funny figure. I thought I've made a note of it, but it is a funny figure this year because, of course, we've had an increase and then a decrease mid-year. So it's not the straight percentage. I will look that up for you. It's something like 13.84. It's not a good number. I'll check that for you. So yeah, that tax year end and the Class 1A, you still need to do the P11DB and the Class 1A. You've still got that obligation. So why aren't people moving? Why aren't employers generally moving over to payrolling benefits in kind? For the majority who have implemented, according to a CIPP survey, the new service has been received with remarkably few complaints from employees. People accept it. It's been simple to roll out and simple to maintain. So it has been a success for the employers who have done it. So why has there been this resistance to moving over? Why are we still stuck with P11Ds for so many people still? Strangely at Ciphr, we've actually experienced an increase in customers asking for our P11D services. It's great for us. We love to look after people and provide these services, but it is a curious trend where for 6 years now, this method has been available. So I think there is a perception that payrolling benefits in kind is complicated to process. So I mean, we have been through some of those calculations just now, hoping that I've been able to show you that actually the calculations of the benefits due, that it is the same as you would have to do for a P11D. Obviously it's great for employees to be taxed at the point of receiving a benefit. And at Ciphr, our products and services and customer success teams are all here to help you. We're all here to support you if you've got any questions and provide advice wherever we can. I've listed here some of the maybe some of the challenges, some of the barriers that you could experience. So that top one there, the charging class 1 NICs on the benefit value, you can't do that. Class 1A is payable by the employer, but the employee does not pay national insurance on the benefit value. So it's really important that it's just the taxable pay that's increased when you're doing this, not the national insuranceable and not the pensionable pay either. Okay, so be aware of that. You must register with HMRC. Some employers apparently are doing this without registering. That creates all sorts of problems for the employee because then they are being double taxed. Please note also that a payroll bureau cannot do this for you. Even if they are registered as your agent, you have to do that, screenshot that we had a look at a little bit earlier for the .gov page that you need to go through. So please make sure that you do that. You do have to do it for a full tax year. And you do need to make sure that everybody knows what the change is. It's absolutely vital for the success. And tell your payroll team. If it's something that you're discussing in HR, again, make sure you've got that cross-team discussion going on so that everybody's contributing to the success and the transition of the rollout of this sort of change. So as promised, a little look at what we do at Ciphr. So here at Ciphr, our HR team are constantly reviewing ways to improve the benefits and reward packages for our employees. So the average cost of employers' national insurance is around £4,000 to £5,000 a year per employee. So it's a lot. So anything that we can do to help reduce the impact of that with salary sacrifice schemes is obviously going to make good business sense. Our pension scheme at Ciphr is a salary sacrifice scheme, and also our employer savings we do add back to the employee so that they get further benefit for that as well. Recruiting new employees is an expensive process. We are a growing organisation and we're always looking to find new talent to join us here at Ciphr. Advertising and recruitment, that could cost at least £3,000, much more if you're using agencies, even more if you're using headhunters. So having a healthy benefit package is a really good attraction and retention tool in a pretty tough recruitment market. So our just chatting with our payroll and rewards manager and our HR team, they've said that payroll and benefits has actually reduced the number of queries coming through to the team about understanding tax, changes to tax codes, employees being confused about pay slips, and those lost P60 and lost P11D queries that you always get a flurry for when it comes to self-assessment time. The admin, once you've rolled it out, the administration just becomes a lot simpler and a lot smoother. We are delighted to say that Ciphr has been voted top 35 in the most loved workplace rankings for 2022. So that's a really great endorsement for our employee satisfaction and happiness, and this surely is a part of that. So to summarise, so P11Ds, I don't know, there might be the responsibility of your tax department, your finance team, or even your accountant. It might not be something that you have to deal with at the moment. So the thought of bringing it into payroll actually doesn't agree with you at all. That's fine. But actually bringing the process into the payroll team, although it might increase the responsibilities of that team, it is a really cost-effective way to manage reportable benefits, particularly if P11D is a paid service, or you've got a separate software package that you're having to pay for to put those through. So it's an excellent benefit to the employees as well, of course, making income tax much easier for them to understand. Ciphr supports customers both with our Ciphr payroll software solution and our bureau service as well. So whatever your needs, we will help you to ensure your accuracy and compliance. We've got good experience of implementing this in our customers. So any questions that you've got, then you'll be in really good hands with our team. Yeah, so that's the end of the presentation today. Back over to Catherine.
Thanks so much, Amanda. I'm just going to talk for a second to give you a little bit of a break. So thank you so much for all of that information about payroll and benefits in kind. Hopefully that's been interesting and relevant to what you were hoping to find out from today's broadcast. We have some time now for Amanda to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, send them in using the control panel on your screen now, and we'll do our best to answer them as best we can. I'll just start off with one, Amanda. You said not to leave it too late, like don't leave it until the end of the tax year to make this switch and actually start thinking about it now. Do you have an estimate of how long it can take a typical organisation to make the move away from P11Ds to payrolling the benefits of client, actually getting that all set up and communicated?
That's a really great question. As I say, my best advice is to, so we're looking at April 23 now. So you're going to need the spring easily, I would say a good 2 or 3 months to make sure that, firstly, that if you're running your payroll in-house, or if you're working with a payroll bureau service provider, that they have time to review the types of benefits that you want to payroll, set up new wage types. So you're going to need those set up on your payroll solution, to go through a little bit of testing, and make sure that you're getting the reporting, you're getting that summaries that will be available, so that you've got your class 1A. But then also time for that communication with your employees. So I'd give it 3 months easily.
Okay,
just
great.
to make sure that if there are any questions coming back from your employees as well, that you're able to maybe adjust your comms, but also to make sure everyone has the information they need.
Sure. For people who are joining us and they're using our Ciphr HR solution but not Ciphr's payroll solution, is there reporting available in Ciphr HR so they can share that data with their existing payroll bureau to help get set up with payrolling benefits in kind?
There's a couple of different areas in the Ciphr HR platform that you would be able to maintain those sorts of records. So firstly, you've got your allowances area. So in the allowances area, you would be able to create an allowance for that payrolling benefit in kind. So you can just create that in your code tables so that value is there. That value can also come through to your total reward statements as well, if you're using those. But then we've also got the additional information area. Now, additional information is an area within your Ciphr HR system where you can create whole new pages with multi-tabs, and you can create your own sort of date fields, note fields, values, text fields, and so on, so that you can build out a lot more information about that benefit. We can integrate to any of that data if you're using a benefits platform provider like Benefex or Amber. We can have that integration, but then anything that you create there, of course, will then be available to your report writer. So you'll be able to create your own reporting. Or an export of that data to your payroll provider, whoever you're using.
Okay, great. And if our customers needed a bit of help, we can setting those up. That's something we can help with through our customer success team.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, so please do approach your customer success manager. We've just launched a new service desk platform as well using Zendesk, and that's got a lot of FAQs, and so we're starting to build that out as well. So that will become a really great place for you to be able to run little videos or see screenshots and stuff. Also, the Ciphr Academy is going to have a lot of help for our customers. So if you like to self-serve and go and find out things for yourself, of course, then we've got lots of different media and platforms for you to find that. But yeah, just email or phone your customer success manager, and they'll be able to help you.
Fantastic. We have one question. You said you mentioned that you need to start payrolling benefits at the beginning of the tax year. Is there any way we can start payrolling a benefit midway through the tax year? They are looking to implement electric vehicles through salary sacrifice. Can they start it now, or will they need to P11D for these now and payroll from 5th of April?
P11, it can only be full tax years, so you will need to wait until the following tax year.
Okay, that's great. Another question here. Is there still a responsibility to share the P11D values to employees at the end of the tax year via payslip or a different form, for example?
Yes, there is, but provided there's sufficient information on the payslip, then that's absolutely fine. There is that requirement to make sure that employees receive that information by the 1st of June. So whether you're doing that by the payslip or a letter or email or some kind of communication, but yes, you must do that. That is a part of your tax year end obligations.
Okay, thank you. At this organisation, a new joiner this year has a van and fuel benefit which will be reported on P11D next year. If they choose to payroll this benefit from April 23, is there a risk of them paying double tax next year, the employee?
So they will, so you're going to be reporting that first year on P11D and they've paid no tax on it at all. So there will be back tax payable on that. So the HMRC are going to send them a bill for it. So they can clear that. They can just pay it if they're saving, if they've got an idea of how much tax liability they're building up. So they could just pay it off, or the HMRC are going to adjust their tax year for the 23-24 year.
Okay. What happens if you register with HMRC, but then it comes down to it, you're not ready to implement it come the new tax year?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'll find out. I'll find out. We'll follow that one up.
Okay, thanks, Michelle, for your question. We've got that noted down, so we'll look into that and come back to you. Let me read this. If a benefit is like an allowance, do you enter the full allowance at the start, then edit to what was actually spent at the end of the year, or do you only tax the full amount, whether or not it's spent in full? I'm not sure if I do follow that one.
Sorry, run that one by me again. So
if you do the allowance and then they don't spend the full allowance, how do you figure that out, given that they may have only spent, say, 50% of it?
It's nothing to do with spending it. They're actually receiving a taxable benefit. So, for example, the employer is paying your Bupa membership. So it's already been spent, essentially. Okay. So I'm not quite following that one. If there's an example, then please do send that through to us. That's fine. Yeah, I'll be happy to take a look.
We're a little bit confused on that one. If you send us more information, we can pick that up on the offline afterwards and look into it for you. Sorry. As always with things payroll and tax, it's a bit tricky to cover every single scenario on a call because we don't have everything else in the tips. Okay, I think that's all of our questions for today. So Amanda, oh no, we've got one more. I was about to say you're off the hook, but we've got one more. Callie says their organisation has changed employees' company cards in May this year. Would you suggest waiting until April 24 to start payrolling the benefit in kind?
So I think this comes back to making the election for payrolling benefits in kind again. So if a car is available this year to an employee, then that's still going to be P11D reportable. But if it was an existing car, there's already going to be an adjustment in their tax code for this year on that. There's no reason why you can't start payrolling benefits from April 23 for those cars.
Okay, great.
As I understand the question, if I'm understanding the question right. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks very much. Okay, I'm going to close the Q&A there. If you have any further questions, you can get hold of us after the broadcast. You can email us at info@ciphr.com and we'll get those across to Amanda. If you're watching live, this recording will be emailed to you tomorrow, so you can revisit any information that we've covered or share it with a colleague. If you'd like to learn more about Ciphr's payroll solutions or a HR offering, you can opt in using the exit form on your screen after the broadcast. That form also asks you for a bit of feedback about today's broadcast and ideas for topics that you might want to see from us in future webinars. So we're always grateful if you take the 2 minutes to fill that in. Our next webinar is actually about health and wellbeing, going the extra mile to help your employees. And I'll be joined from experts from a couple of our partners. One of them we've referred to today is Amber, employee benefits provider. And we'll also be joined by employee safety technology provider, PeopleSafe, for that one on the 8th of December. So if you're interested in joining us then, please register at bit.ly/cypherhealth. It's set to be a really good one and kind of set us up with ideas for supporting employees' wellbeing going into the new year, which is always a time when lots of people like to start health kicks. So it's a great time to be talking about it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Amanda, thank you as always for all your payroll expertise and fielding our questions. I really appreciate it. We hope to see you at another webinar again soon. Otherwise, take care, have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye-bye.